be me. 34-year-old woman living what I thought was my truth. Always believed in equality. Always stood up for what I thought was right. Work as a program coordinator at a non-profit that helps women transition back into the workforce. Genuinely love my job, love helping people rebuild their lives. Married to David for 9 years. 2 beautiful kids. Emma, my sweet 7-year-old daughter, and Lucas, my energetic 5-year-old son. Marriage started falling apart around year 7. We grew distant, wanted different things, argued about money and parenting styles. I wanted the kids in alternative education. He wanted traditional schools. I thought he was too strict. He thought I was too permissive. The usual stuff that breaks couples apart. Neither of us was happy anymore. Decided to divorce last year. Thought it would be amicable at first. We'd split custody 50-50, divide assets fairly, co-parent like adults. Then David mentioned he wanted primary custody and said his job had more stability, better benefits, better school district. Something in me just snapped. These are my children. I carried them. I birthed them. I spent years sacrificing my career for them. Took extended maternity leave, both times, went part-time for 3 years. While he climbed the corporate ladder, I was the one doing the real work. The endless doctor appointments, the parent-teacher conferences, the sleepless nights, and now he thinks he can just waltz in and take them? Started thinking about all the times he'd raised his voice during arguments. All the times he'd been dismissive of my concerns. All the times he'd made decisions without consulting me. In my mind, I started reframing everything. Wasn't that a form of control? Wasn't that emotional abuse? Convinced myself that I was actually protecting my children, that they needed to be with me. The parent who truly understood them started talking to other women at work who'd been through difficult divorces. Heard stories about how the system favors fathers with money, how good lawyers can twist everything, how women lose their children all the time to manipulative men. Felt this growing panic that I was going to lose Emma and Lucas. That's when I made the worst decision of my life. Started documenting incidents that never happened. Wrote in a journal about arguments we'd had, but added details that weren't true. Described him pushing me during a fight. He never touched me. Wrote about him screaming at the kids until they cried. He was firm, but never cruel. Described feeling afraid, walking on eggshells, being controlled, and told myself I was just emphasizing the emotional reality. That even if the specific incidents weren't accurate, the feeling was real. That's how I justified it at first. Then I went further. One night after the kids were asleep, I took a hairbrush and pressed it hard against my upper arm. I had to do it multiple times to get a bruise to form. Took photos from multiple angles, made sure the lighting looked dim and scary. Created a whole folder on my phone of evidence. Some days I'd pinch my wrists until they were red. Once I bumped my cheekbone against the bathroom cabinet door to create a faint bruise. I took a photo immediately, adding it to my collection. The hardest part was involving Emma and Lucas. He started subtly at first. Would ask Emma, "Remember when Daddy yelled at Mummy that time? Were you scared?" She'd look confused, say she didn't remember. I'd gently insist, "You were there, sweetie, in the kitchen. Don't you remember?" Kept bringing it up until she'd nod, uncertainly. With Lucas, it was easier, because he was younger. I'd ask leading questions. "Does Daddy ever make you feel scared?" He'd say no. I'd respond, "But remember when he got really angry about the toys? You felt scared then, right?" Repeated these conversations over and over, added details each time. Told Emma she needed to tell the truth about how Daddy hurt Mummy. Described scenes that never happened until they became almost real in my own mind. Convinced myself I was helping them feel safe to disclose the truth, that I was giving them permission to talk about things they'd been suppressing. Filed my first police report 3 months before the divorce hearing, hands shaking as I sat in the station. Told the officer David had shoved me during an argument about custody. Said I'd hit my shoulder on the kitchen counter. Showed them a bruise I'd given myself by pressing a rolling pin against my skin. They took photos, filed a report, asked if I wanted to press charges. Said I was too afraid, just wanted it documented. The officer was sympathetic, a woman about my age. Told me I was brave for coming forward. Felt sick to my stomach, but also weirdly validated. Filed a restraining order the next week. In my affidavit, I described 3 incidents of physical abuse. Him grabbing my arm and leaving bruises. Never happened. Him throwing a plate that shattered near my head. Never. Him blocking me from leaving a room during an argument. Never happened. Included the photos I'd staged. Added dramatic language about fearing for my safety and the children's well-being. The temporary restraining order was granted immediately. David was ordered to stay away from the family home. Had to move in with his brother. Could only see the kids at a supervised visitation center. Saw the confusion and hurt on his face when he found out. He tried calling me, asking what was happening, saying we could work this out. I didn't answer. Told myself he was trying to manipulate me. Filed a second police report about him violating the restraining order. Claimed he drove by the house slowly at night. He didn't. Said I saw his car parked on our street. It wasn't. Police took it seriously. Warned him about the consequences. His lawyer was furious. David was bewildered. He hadn't violated anything because he hadn't done anything wrong. Meanwhile, I was meeting with Child Protective Services. They'd opened an investigation based on my allegations. I sat in my living room with a CPS caseworker named Jennifer. She was kind, professional, taking careful notes. I told her everything I documented. Described David as controlling, volatile, unpredictable. Said the children had witnessed violence, that Emma had started having nightmares, that Lucas had become anxious and clingy. Jennifer asked to speak with the children separately. This is where I did something I can never take back. Before her visit, I prepped Emma carefully, sat her down, and explained that we needed to tell the truth about Daddy, that sometimes grown-ups don't show their best selves. They asked her to remember the times Daddy got really angry, told her it was okay to say she felt scared, and practiced what she would say. When Daddy and Mummy fight, I feel scared, and I hide in my room. Made her repeat it until it sounded natural. With Lucas, I used simpler language. Told him that sometimes Daddy makes Mummy sad. Asked if he could tell the nice lady that. He nodded, wanting to please me. When Jennifer interviewed them, Emma recited what I'd taught her. Lucas mostly stayed quiet, but nodded when Jennifer asked if he sometimes felt worried. Jennifer's report noted concerning signs of domestic discord and recommended continued monitoring. Didn't find evidence of immediate danger, but flagged the case. This was somehow both a relief and a disappointment. I wanted validation, but not intervention. Wanted David to look bad, but not to actually face serious consequences. Just wanted primary custody. The preliminary custody hearing was approaching. My lawyer was confident, based on the restraining order and police reports that told me that documented abuse allegations typically resulted in supervised visitation at most. That I'd likely get primary custody, with David having limited parenting time, exactly what I wanted. Except I couldn't sleep at night. I kept having this recurring nightmare, where Emma and Lucas asked me why I lied. Would wake up in a panic, tell myself I hadn't really lied. Just emphasized certain truths. Protected my children from potential future harm. Any mother would do the same. 2 weeks before the hearing, filed a third police report. Claimed David had sent me threatening text messages. Of course he hadn't. But I took screenshots of messages he'd actually sent. We need to talk about the kids. This is getting out of hand. Please just tell me what you want. Told the police these were veiled threats. That we need to talk was code for intimidation. That out of hand referred to his anger. The officer seemed skeptical, but took the report. Everything came crashing down because of my own stupidity. I'd been venting to my best friend Rachel throughout this whole process, and I sent her long text messages about my strategy. Actual messages like, coached Emma on what to say to CPS, think she's got it down, and gave myself a pretty convincing bruise. Today, looks legit in photos, and David has no idea what's coming. His lawyer thinks this is about custody, but I'm playing a different game. Rachel had been supportive initially, but as things escalated, she'd grown quieter. Stopped responding as enthusiastically. I was too caught up in my own drama to notice. Turns out, Rachel had been dating David's brother Tom for the past month. They met at a community event. She didn't tell me because things were so contentious. But when Tom mentioned how confused and devastated David was, how he'd never been violent in his life, how the allegations made no sense to anyone who knew him, Rachel started feeling uncomfortable. She'd seen the text messages I'd sent her, struggled with what to do, finally decided she couldn't stay silent while an innocent person was destroyed, took screenshots of our entire text conversation, hundreds of messages over 3 months, gave them to Tom, who gave them to David's lawyer. I had no idea this was happening. Walked into the custody hearing feeling confident. My lawyer had prepared me well. We had the restraining order, the police reports, the CPS investigation. We had Emma prepared to testify about feeling scared. We had my photos, my journal, my documented timeline. David's lawyer stood up and requested a recess. Said new evidence had emerged that required the judge's immediate attention. Presented a thick folder to Judge Morrison. My lawyer looked confused. I felt a spike of anxiety but didn't know why. Judge Morrison spent 20 minutes reviewing the documents in chambers. Came back looking severe. Asked my lawyer and me to approach the bench. Showed us printouts of my text messages to Rachel. Every single incriminating message. My stomach dropped. Felt like I was falling through the floor. The judge asked if I'd like to explain these messages. My mind went blank. Tried to stammer something about them being taken out of context. That I was venting, exaggerating, not being literal. Judge Morrison cut me off. Said she was ordering an immediate investigation. That the hearing was postponed. That she was referring the matter to law enforcement. That if these allegations were proven false, there would be serious consequences. Left the courthouse in a daze. My lawyer was furious. They asked me point blank if the abuse allegations were fabricated. I couldn't answer. She withdrew as my counsel that day. The next 2 months were a nightmare. David's lawyer hired a forensic analyst who examined my phone, found the folder of staged photos, found metadata showing I'd taken multiple photos in sequence, clearly setting up shots, found deleted messages where I'd discussed my strategy with myself in draft texts, found voice recordings I'd made, practicing what I'd say to the police. Didn't even remember making those recordings. Had done it almost unconsciously. The analyst also examined my supposed injuries. Brought in a medical expert who testified the bruises were inconsistent with the abuse I'd described. That they showed a pattern of pressure rather than impact. That their locations suggested self-infliction. David's lawyer also retrieved the home security camera footage that I'd forgotten about. We'd installed cameras outside the house for security 2 years earlier. Footage showed that on the dates I'd claimed David had driven by the house, his car was never there. Footage from the date I claimed he'd pushed me in the kitchen showed him leaving calmly in the morning and not returning. We'd actually been in different locations that entire day. Investigators interviewed the children again, this time with a forensic child psychologist. Emma broke down, crying. Said she didn't want to lie anymore, that Mummy had told her what to say, that she loved Daddy and didn't understand why she couldn't see him normally. Lucas was too young to fully articulate it, but the psychologist noted he showed no signs of trauma associated with abuse, that his behavior was consistent with parental alienation, not abuse. Rachel agreed to testify. She looked at me with such disappointment when our eyes met in the courtroom. We'd been best friends since college. She read our text messages aloud in a steady voice. Each word was a nail in my coffin. My own words condemning me. The most damning one. I know he never actually hit me, but I need the court to believe he could have. That's what matters. Sitting there listening to my own manipulation spelled out so clearly. Couldn't even recognize myself. Who had I become? The final hearing was devastating. Judge Morrison reviewed all the evidence, found me in contempt of court for lying under oath. Found that I had filed false police reports. Found that I had committed perjury in my restraining order affidavit. Found that I had coached minor children to give false testimony. Found that I had manipulated the child welfare system. Found that I had engaged in parental alienation. Her voice was cold and disgusted as she read her ruling. Said she had presided over family court for 17 years, had seen genuine victims of abuse struggle to be believed, and here I was making false allegations that harmed real victims. Said my actions were a betrayal of my children, the court, and every actual abuse survivor terminated my parental rights entirely. No visitation, no custody, no contact, except through written letters that David could choose to share with the children if and when he deemed appropriate. Awarded David full sole custody with complete decision-making authority. Ordered me to pay the maximum child support based on imputed income. Since I worked non-profit, my actual income was modest. But the court calculated what I could potentially earn. Set support at a level that would take most of my paycheck. Referred my case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Recommended charges for perjury and filing false police reports, each carrying potential jail time. Walked out of that courtroom knowing I'd lost everything. The story spread through our community like wildfire. We live in a mid-sized town where everyone knows everyone. Within days, everyone had heard. Parents at Emma and Lucas's school, people at my work, members of the community center where I volunteered, the non-profit where I worked called an emergency meeting. My supervisor, a woman I'd respected for years, looked at me with cold eyes, said the organization couldn't employ someone who'd weaponized abuse allegations, that our entire mission was to help genuine victims, that my actions had undermined the credibility of every woman we served, terminated my employment effective immediately, escorted me out of the building with my belongings in a box. Co-workers I'd worked with for 6 years wouldn't meet my eyes. My parents called me the night after the ruling. My mother was crying. Said she didn't know how to reconcile the daughter she raised with the person who'd done these things. Said she needed time and space. My father just said he was disappointed. That single word hurt more than anything else. They've barely spoken to me since. Didn't come to my birthday. Didn't invite me to Thanksgiving. My sister sent a long email. Said she'd always looked up to me, that I was supposed to be the strong feminist who fought for what was right. And instead I'd become exactly what opponents claim when they say women lie about abuse. Said I'd set back the cause I claimed to believe in. Said she couldn't have a relationship with me while Emma and Lucas were suffering. Blocked my number. Friends dropped away one by one. People I'd known for years. Stopped responding to messages. Unfollowed me on social media. Crossed the street to avoid me at the grocery store. Rachel, my best friend, the hardest loss, sent her a long apology message. Poured my heart out about my regrets. She responded with just, "You involved children. You coached Emma to lie. I can't forgive that." Haven't heard from her since. The criminal charges moved forward. My public defender negotiated a plea deal. Pled guilty to 2 counts of filing a false police report. 1 count of perjury. Sentenced to 6 months in county jail. Suspended. 2 years probation. Mandatory counseling. Community service. Now have a criminal record. Can't work in non-profit anymore because of the conviction. Can't work with children or vulnerable populations. Took a job doing data entry at a logistics company. Sit in a cubicle 8 hours a day. No one there knows my story. Try to keep it that way. Live alone in a small 1-bedroom apartment across town. We had to move because people in my old neighborhood would stare. One woman spit at me in the parking lot. Called me a monster. Couldn't even defend myself because what could I say? She was right. The worst part is living with what I've done to Emma and Lucas. They're with David full-time now. He moved to a house in a better school district. Got remarried last year to a kind woman named Sarah. Heard through the grapevine that Emma and Lucas call her Miss Sarah. That they seem happy. David sends me an annual letter updating me on the children. It's part of the court order. He doesn't have to, but he does. Last letter said Emma is doing well in 3rd grade. Loves soccer and reading. Lucas started kindergarten. Is making friends and enjoys building things. There's a photo enclosed each time. 2 smiling children who look healthy and loved. Children who are growing up without me. Every time I look at those photos, I break down crying. Emma looks so much older than I remember. Lucas's face has lost its baby roundness. I'm missing everything. First days of school, lost teeth, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. all because of my lies. Sometimes I try to tell myself I was just trying to protect them, that my intentions started out good. But that's bullshit, and I know it. I wanted to win, wanted to punish David for wanting to leave, wanted to maintain control, used my children as weapons. Convinced myself that because I'm a woman, because I believe in fighting patriarchal systems, because I work helping other women, that somehow I was inherently the wronged party, that David wanting primary custody was inherently an attack, twisted my feminist beliefs into something ugly and self-serving. I thought that because women are often victims, I could claim victimhood and it would automatically be true. Weaponized real struggles that real women face, made it harder for actual abuse victims to be believed. Became exactly what I always claimed to fight against. Someone who abused power and manipulated the system for personal gain. The court-mandated therapist asked me once what I thought feminism meant. Gave some rehearsed answer about equality and dismantling oppressive structures. She asked if lying to destroy an innocent person was equality, if manipulating my children was dismantling oppression, if using my gender as a shield for inexcusable behavior was feminism. Didn't have an answer. Sat there in silence for the rest of the session. Been thinking about those questions for months. Realized I'd confused advocating for myself with advocating for what was right. Convinced myself that my perspective was automatically valid because I'm a woman, that my feelings of anger and fear justified any actions I took. Never stopped to consider that David had equal rights as a parent, that Emma and Lucas had rights to a relationship with both their parents. That truth actually matters. My worldview had become so distorted, thought I was fighting a righteous battle, but I was just destroying people who loved me. The DA who prosecuted me was a woman. Young, competent, obviously disgusted with me. She said something during the plea hearing that stuck with me. Real victims of domestic violence struggle every day to be believed. They face skepticism, victim blaming, and institutional barriers. And then there are people like the defendant who fabricate allegations for personal gain, making it exponentially harder for actual victims. This isn't feminism. This is narcissism. She was right. I'd become so focused on my own narrative that I couldn't see anything else. Thought I was protecting my children when I was actually traumatizing them. Emma is going to grow up knowing her mother coached her to lie about her father. Lucas will eventually understand that I tried to steal years of his childhood with his dad. They'll both know I valued winning over their well-being. That knowledge will shape them forever. Sometimes I fantasize about what I'd say if I could see them, how I'd apologize, try to explain. But what explanation could possibly suffice? Mummy was selfish and cruel, but she really believed in gender equality? There's no version of this story where I'm redeemable. David could let me see them. The court said letters only, but he has discretion. He hasn't exercised it. Can't blame him. Why would he let the person who tried to destroy him near his children? The person who taught his daughter to lie, who gave herself bruises and blamed him, who filed police reports that could have ended with him in jail, who tried to paint him as an abuser when he'd never raised a hand to anyone. He's protecting Emma and Lucas from me, like I should have protected them from my own worst impulses. I write letters to the children sometimes. David reviews them and decides whether to share them. Doubt he shares many. Write about how sorry I am, about how much I love them, about how none of this was their fault, about how Daddy is a good man and they're lucky to have him, apologizing for things they're still too young to fully understand. Emma might start to understand soon. She's getting older, asking questions probably. What will David tell her? Probably the truth. That Mummy made very bad choices. That Mummy hurt people. That sometimes people who love you can still do terrible things. He'll tell it in age-appropriate ways. He's a good father like that. The kind of father I tried to claim he wasn't. My new therapist, the court-mandated one, finished, but I kept going, asks what I've learned. Learned that good intentions don't excuse harmful actions. Learned that you can't weaponize victimhood without becoming a perpetrator. Learned that children are people, not possessions or tools. Learned that the systems meant to protect abuse victims are fragile, and people like me damage them irreparably. Learned that feminist values mean nothing if you abandon truth and ethics. Learned that you can destroy your entire life in a matter of months and spend years living in the ruins. Learned that some mistakes can't be fixed, some relationships can't be repaired, some trust can't be rebuilt. The community support group for parents who've lost custody can't even go to that. They're for parents who've lost kids to circumstances or bad luck. Not for parents who engineered their own destruction through malicious lies. I tried going once. When I shared my story, the facilitator asked me to leave. Said my situation was different, that I hadn't lost my children. I'd thrown them away. Sits with me every day. I didn't lose Emma and Lucas. I chose this. Every single step. Chose to lie. Chose to manipulate. Chose to coach them. Chose to stage photos. Chose to file false reports. Chose my ego over their well-being. Now I live with those choices. In this small apartment with photos of children who are essentially strangers now, who grow taller and older in annual update letters, who have lives I'm not part of, who have a stepmother who actually cares for them, who have a father who protected them from me. Work my data entry job, come home to an empty apartment, eat dinner alone, watch television I don't really pay attention to, go to therapy, attend my mandated check-ins with my probation officer, pay child support that I'll never see, benefit my children directly, watch the money, leave my account each month knowing it's the least I owe, write letters that probably get filed away unread, and think about what I destroyed. Sometimes, women at my new workplace talk about their kids, share photos, complain about the challenges, laugh about the funny things they say. I stay quiet. They've asked if I have children. I say no, because how do I explain? Yes, I have 2 children I'm legally barred from seeing because I fabricated abuse allegations and coached them to lie in court. Easier to just pretend I'm childless, which, functionally, I am. Saw Emma from a distance once, was at the grocery store, and saw David with the kids. Emma has gotten so tall. Lucas was chattering excitedly about something. They looked happy, healthy, adjusted, ducked into another aisle before they could see me. In terms of my probation, say I can't approach them, but I would have hidden anyway. Couldn't bear to see Emma's face if she recognized me. Fear, maybe. Or worse, nothing. Just a blank look of non-recognition. Her mother become a stranger, cried in my car for an hour. This is my life now. This is what I chose. When I fabricated those first allegations, I thought I was so smart. Thought I was playing the game better than David. Using the system to my advantage. Protecting my interests. Being strategic. Told myself a story about being the wronged woman. The sacrificial mother. The victim who had to fight dirty to survive. But I was never the victim. David was. Emma and Lucas were. Every real abuse survivor whose claims get questioned because of people like me. They're the victims. I was the abuser. Used the courts as my weapon. Used the police as my tools. Used my own children as pawns. All while telling myself I was fighting for justice. For equality. For my rights as a mother. The narcissism is breathtaking in retrospect. The sheer entitlement. Believing that my feelings justified destroying an innocent person's reputation. That my desire for primary custody outweighed my children's need for their father. That being a woman who believed in feminist principles somehow exempted me from basic ethics. There's a folder on my laptop. Contains all the court documents. The evidence of my lies. The text messages that exposed me. The judge's ruling. The termination of my parental rights. Sometimes I read through it. Force myself to confront what I did. The therapist says this might not be healthy, but I disagree. I need to remember. I need to sit with the full weight of my actions, because the alternative is letting myself off the hook, telling myself it wasn't that bad, that I was under stress, that the system was unfair, that David pushed me to it. All lies. more lies I could tell myself. But I'm done lying. The truth is, I did something unforgivable, hurt my children in ways that will echo through their entire lives, destroyed my family, damaged the credibility of real victims, betrayed every principle I claim to hold, and I have to live with that every single day for the rest of my life. Emma will be 8 soon. Lucas will be 6. Will David tell them about me on their birthdays? Or is it better if they just forget? Don't know which would hurt more. Being remembered as the mother who lied, or being forgotten entirely. Either way, I deserve it. This is my confession, my cautionary tale, for anyone who thinks the ends justify the means, for anyone who thinks their pain gives them the right to destroy others, for anyone who would use their children as weapons, for anyone who would fabricate abuse allegations. Don't. Just don't. Because when the truth comes out, and it will come out, you'll lose everything. And unlike in the movies, there's no redemption arc, no moment where everyone forgives you and you get your kids back. Just the rest of your life, knowing what you did, knowing what you destroyed, knowing that your children are better off without you. That's my reality now, and I did this to myself. Nobody else. Just me and my lies and my arrogance and my entitled belief that I deserved to win no matter the cost. The cost was everything, and I'm paying it every day, forever. Sitting alone in this apartment, watching my children grow up in photographs, knowing they're better off without me, knowing I did this, all of it, and wishing I could go back, wishing I could be the person I thought I was, the person who actually stood for something, instead of the person who used her beliefs to justify the unjustifiable. But I can't go back, can only go forward, into a future without my children, without my friends, without my family, without respect or redemption, just consequences, permanent, irreversible consequences. This is what I deserve. This is what I chose. And I'll live with it until I die, alone, knowing that Emma and Lucas are somewhere out there, living good lives, with a father who protected them from me.